Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north, and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah, yeah. East, west, north, and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, holy angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
Thank you for joining me tonight here on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I am your hostess. The music you were listening to there at the beginning of the show is I Sense Your Presence. It's by Shem Shai. And I just want to say welcome, whether you're joining us here for the first time or whether you've listened to previous shows and you've come back to see what we're doing on tonight's show. Here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, I look at different ways that compassion exists in our lives, how to remove our blocks, resistances, frustrations, and more. Some weeks I am discussing different aspects of how compassion is in our life, how it affects our life, and the different areas of compassion. And then some weeks we're doing more exercises and practical implementations. And a lot of times, especially this year, I've got some incredible guests on the show. And that way it gives you a chance to learn about their work and how other things work with compassion and complement it. I also highlight different musical artists along the way. I've had Jill Matson on the show. I've had Stephen Halpern, Peter Cater. Both of those were Grammy nominees. And if you missed those shows, I do recommend you go back and listen to those in the archives. Last year, at the very end of the year, Claire Hadeen was on the show, another great musical artist. And hoping to get some more lined up. I've got some feelers out there trying to see who else I can bring in right now for the musical end of things. And in my own work, I focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. I've created the Genesis Clearing Statement, and some of you have experienced that. For example, when I started doing my show, just before that, Kevin Barrett, another one of our hosts, interviewed me. If you want to find out what that's about and you want to hear how that works live on the air, you can certainly go back and listen to that in the archives. That happened in September of 2012. And I've also authored 4 books. The most recent 2 are You, Me, Life Dreams and You, Me, Life Dreams, the Workbook. And those have just come out. Those are based on relationships. And I also have my first 2 books, Activating Compassion and Activating Compassion, the Workbook. In addition, I've created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour, including workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, and fundraising events. And I am already creating the tour for 2014. That's going to start off in the California region, in the Santa Barbara area, with a taping going on for Bridging Heaven and Earth, a TV show. And also that will lead me on up into book signings around the Central Coast region and also the Solvang region. So I'm looking forward to getting myself around in that area and moving on up the coast and seeing all the people I can meet. And if you're out that way, I certainly hope that you'll come and touch base and join in with me. The TV show, they allow people to come in and watch the taping, so that can be really fun. You can also follow events available to register for on the Compassion Tour at jessieannnicholsgeorge.eventbrite.com. And there's also an option there for gifting the tour if you can't make any of the events, but you'd like to support the work I'm doing, help me get out to like the fundraisers. That's always appreciated there. And just a reminder, if you enjoy the show, make sure that you tell your friends, family, significant others, Facebook connections, all those great social media friends, and anybody else you feel compelled to share it with, because I've found a lot of times when I'm sharing a show, I never know who it's going to reach out there in my connections and my social media area, and the next thing I know, I have people going, wow, this is great, I'm so glad you shared this. So you might be helping somebody a lot by sharing a link with them. And they just use the same link, by the way, to get into the show, to listen to it in the archives. And also that's found on my Activating Compassion Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/activatingcompassion/notes. I have all the archived shows there. And before we get started on everything, what I'd like to do, as some of you that have listened to the show before know, is I'd like to open up and use the book, The 72 Names of God, Technology for the Soul. It is by Yehuda Berg, and the great thing I love about Yehuda's work is because he takes those big concepts of things and he puts them in everyday language, which is what I like to do in my work. I like to take big, giant concepts and put them into practical usage in our everyday life arena. And so I randomly open up, so let's see what we have, because it seems like it's always more than appropriate. We found that out last week, right? We were talking about hair healing with Loda, and it opened right to DNA. Okay, so tonight's message, we have dream state. There you go. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. How could it be more appropriate than that? Okay, and he says here on his message, according to Kabbalah, our physical universe is not all there is. In fact, our world of early morning coffee and traffic jams is just one of many dimensions. These other dimensions are accessible in different ways, one of which is through our dreams. And then the insight that he provides on this is, when we fall asleep, the daily chains of physical existence that trap our souls in our bodies loosen. As we slumber, our souls become free to ascend into the spiritual atmosphere where they receive nourishment, power, and the occasional tune-up. During this nightly sojourn, our souls are in a realm beyond time and space. Past, present, and future become one. The full panorama of a human lifespan is displayed from birth to death. Our souls catch sight of future events, both positive and negative. These glimpses are then filtered down to the body where they take the form of dreams. Dreams contain both lies and truths. If we're spiritual, our dreams are predominantly truthful. If we're egocentric, our dreams will be misleading. These influences attract us subconsciously, impacting the decisions we make in life. The more truthful our dreams, the wiser choices we make, and vice versa. If we can extrapolate the messages from our dreams and nightmares, consciously and subconsciously, we understand what we have to change about ourselves. Spiritual change is the proactive way to deflect negative effects and judgments that might be heading our way. And the meditation that he gives with this is, with this name you dream truthfully. Your soul ascends to safe and loving places during the night. You awake each morning recharged, reinvigorated, renewed in body and spirit, wiser. And the way this name is pronounced is Lamed Lamed Hey. Okay, that's Lamed Lamed Hey, and the common name for it is dream state. And that's our message by Yehuda, and I think that's very insightful because I've certainly found a lot about dreams containing truths and lies, so to say, and the mystery of what's going on and being a great way to look at things, learn, work things out. And as we start to move on here into our night, I want to do a little prelude here, a little insight about dreams, since that's our key focus with our guest tonight. And what I find here is, what happens? I ask some of these things. I always have these odd thoughts, right? People know me. They go, yeah, you're always asking those questions. Well, what happens when we lay down at night and we drift off to sleep? Are you really getting rest, or are you actively off exploring other realms? And do you have visions of sugar plums dancing in your head, or are you haunted by recurring nightmares? And dreams can be most interesting thing. They have been a key channel for me all of my life. And I know, for example, from very young, I remember things when I was like 3-4 years old and having dreams at that age and premonitions and things like that. And I've had these premonitions through dreams, resolved issues through dreams, and received valuable insights and directions through dream states. Now, sometimes I know I'm astral traveling around, and other times I'm clearly dreaming. And I've learned that oftentimes certain people, places, or things will show up or happen during these states that help me understand things that are in my present waking life, or be prepared for what's getting ready to happen in my life. And I know a cat that I used to have oftentimes shows up when there are deceitful people around me, for example, or to let me know to pay extra attention to things. And I often would have dreams of flying or ice skating just before very fortuitous events in my life. And many times I find myself exploring places, attending things, preparing things, and so on. My experience is that dreams can serve a variety of different purposes in our life. And learning to harness and work with our dreams can help us to not only gain insights, but to also release trauma, face fears, discover that we can do things that we didn't know we could do, generate ideas for things that we're working on, resolve conflicts, and so much more. I've found that dreams can be very useful as a tool in my development process and for connecting with my spiritual self. Now, Curtis Williams specializes in helping people with dreams, and he blends an awareness from both a psychological and spiritual aspect in his work, and then he takes this and he can integrate these insights with the person's, for example, astrological information and current aspects. And I have found that there tend to be at certain times of year for me when my dreams are more active than other times. And although I have to say this year it's been pretty active, pretty much all year long for me, but for example, a lot of times we're aware that our water element signs, which are Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer, tend to have a natural affinity towards dream messages. And when the sun is in those signs, we tend to receive more messages in dreams, even if we don't normally dream. And I've also found that my dreams can strongly be enhanced when the sun is in fire signs, which is the signs of Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, as well as when the moon is full. And people also seem to have a lot of different ways of interpreting dreams, from psychological foundations, dietary aspects, being that some foods digest differently and health issues can lead to more dreams or nightmares, and literal interpretations, polar opposite interpretations. As a result, there's been a lot of books put out defining what we dream about. These include things like Zoller's Dream Dictionary, Dream Psychology by Sigmund Freud, 10,000 Dreams Interpreted by Gustavus Hindman Miller, and a lot more out there. So let's leave you with a couple of questions here, and that is, you can kind of think about these as we start to move on towards our break, but what dreaming patterns do you notice? And have you seen patterns, themes, or correlations of your dreams? And how have dreams impacted your life experiences? This week, our guest focuses on a component of compassion that is related to the aspect in my books of waking up. And this reminds us that it is important to build our awareness, to keep growing and developing ourselves and our understanding of things through all aspects of our life. I'm going to take a short break, and when we return, I'm going to have Curtis Williams with us. He will be sharing his work on dreams, how they work in our life, what they provide for us, and how to understand them. The song I have for you during our break tonight is called The Chosen One. It's by Claire Hedin. And again, we had Claire on at the last show of 2012 if you'd like to catch that archive. And if you'd like to find out more about her music, you can go to clairehedin.com. That's actually www.clairehedin.com. And that's CLAREHEDIN.com. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Your eyes shine with kindness, your hair curls with joy, your heart lights the bedroom, your grace fills the sky. You are the chosen one, so bright just like the sun. You are so blessed be, you are a joy to me. Your name sings the heavens, and nature hears it too. chosen whisper, so bright, just like the sun. You fill my heart with gladness. You do for everyone. The heavens sing a chorus of which you are a part. They hear you when you suffer. They hold your blessed heart. You are the chosen one, so bright, just like the sun. You are so blessed be. You are a joy to me. You are a joy to me. You are the one I love, so blessed be. You are the one I chose to be with me. You are the one I love with all my might. You are my joy, you're my delight. You are the one I love, that I adore. You are the one my life was created for. You are the one I love, so blessed be. You are a joy to me.
Welcome back. You are listening to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I am your hostess this evening. You were just listening to a song called The Chosen One. It's by Claire Hedin. And again, you can find out more about her work, if you'd like to, at www.clairehedin.com. That's CLAREHEDIN.com. And I would like to bring on my guest here tonight. Curtis Williams is with me tonight. He's an astrologer, dream analyst, Reiki master and teacher, shamanic practitioner, ecstatic body posture instructor. He has been a humanistic astrologer for over 20 years, seeing astrology as a valuable tool in helping others to reach their goals, using a variety of aspects of astrology, including natal, relocation, orrery, couples synastry, mundane rectification, and is certified as a medical astrologer. Curtis holds Reiki certifications, and I know I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, so forgive me for any those that are Reiki practitioners, Usui and Karuna Reiki, and is a volunteer Reiki facilitator at the Hearst Cancer Research Center and the homeless shelter in San Luis Obispo, California. He has also participated in healing days and works with various clinics. Curtis has received a certification in E3, Emotional Energetic Evolution, a psychological and energy healing modality that specifically relates to and helps redirect physical, emotional, and traumatic events through personal transformation. It includes muscle testing and finding a resolution to problematic episodes that hold us back, as well as being used to find core issues that directly relate to the health and diet, such as allergies and overeating. We're discussing tonight the aspects of Curtis' work, and you can learn more about his work at www.astrologyreiki.com. And let me go ahead and get his mic opened up here. Hi, Curtis. Welcome to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour.
Hi, Jesse. How are you? Thank you for having me on tonight. I'm really excited to be on your show.
Well, thank you. It's so great to have you here, and I really appreciate you giving your time to us because I know you do a lot of things, not only in your own work, but lots of different volunteer things, and I think there was even a horse organization or something that you were with that I first saw when we were communicating originally, in addition to all these other things, and then I know I was like, wow, somebody from the Central Coast, California, because I used to live in Cambria and San Luis Obispo and Los Osos, so yeah.
Well, I was with Red Wings Horse Rescue, and but I just recently left there. They're quite a distance from where I actually live. They're in Monterey County, and obviously I'm in San Luis Obispo County, so that was just in the last month or so. So, yeah, you were right about that. I really liked the opening of your show, Jesse, about the what you read, and I don't recall who the author was, but that was very insightful. And it's interesting because a lot of the research that I've been doing over the years, and I would imagine most practitioners of energy work look to magic, practical magic, and the Kabbalistic magic is very powerful, should I say. And I've been reading for a while now the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Greater Key of Solomon. And in these books, I'm learning that in the Bible, a lot of what they say in the Bible, and this is from the books, I wasn't there, but it says that it was the dreams that the kings and the shamans, people that would take care of the villages, take care of the towns, they were all taught in how to do dream work to get the messages that they felt were necessary to protect the kingdom, protect the village, the towns, and the city. So that was interesting. Just that you even read that. I mean, I didn't anticipate that, but but it just seems to all blend in. All of what I think that we do, it's like a hand in glove.
It's so true, and it just always amazes me how the messages are so appropriate. And that, Yehuda Bergen, you brought up the Lesser and Greater Keys of Solomon, absolutely wonderful works. I think so insightful in that work and the messages that are there. And I think that's where a lot of people, they get confused sometimes because they think, well, why does it say in certain places that you shouldn't deal with psychics, and then in other places it says, we're to respect these seers and things like that. But I would like to stop a little bit here and have you give our listeners some insight about your background. What has your journey been? What brought you into doing all of this work that you're doing now?
Okay. Well, how it all started was I used to be a house builder, and I loved doing the work, but I got injured and took a significant amount of time to recover from the injury. And during that time, a friend of my wife's gave me a book on astrology. It was an Isabel Hickey book, and I'd never really done much research or reading on astrology other than those little wrapped up pieces of paper that you see at the checkout stands. At least that's when I was growing up. And I started reading it that day, and I haven't stopped since. And so really that was the impetus of my journey into what I'm doing now.
It's funny because I was kind of similar, I would say, on my path, because astrology was one of the first things I drew to, and I would always be reading, like Sidney Omar in the paper almost every day, and I would sit there and I would read these things, and I'm like, how can they possibly know what's going to happen in my life?
Right.
and I want to know how they know those things, and that definitely started my journey as well. That and gemstones, I think, were two of the key things. But of course, dreams were a big area for me because they, almost as long as I can remember, there were different aspects of dreams and traveling and things like that. And so I know you've developed into it. Now, what got you to take the transition then over into dreams?
Well, I think, like you, I've always dreams have always been important to me. It's just a natural thing for me to fall back into, and when you begin to pay attention to them, they become more prominent, and you become hopefully more reflective. But again, at the beginning of your show, talking about dreams and dream work, and most everyone dreams, and a lot of people might say that they don't remember their dreams, but they do dream, and then there's a lot of different thoughts as to what dreams really mean. But I don't know how many people are familiar with lucid dreams. I don't know. Are you familiar with lucid dreams, Jesse?
I am, yeah. And that was one of the things I was going to have you say. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the different types of dreams there are, and
right. Right. What I was going to say is that lucid dreams have always been a pretty big part of my life. But until you really can establish what's going on in your own life, dream work is not going to be, unless you're going to be honest with yourself, dream work is not going to be that helpful. It can be a peripheral type of modality to help you, have conversations and maybe briefly contemplate on what they mean. But you have to be, straight with yourself. You have to try to get things in order. And I think that applies to pretty much everything we do in life. But many of my clients, when they come to me, they're in crisis. So dream work, if you do your dream work, a lot of times it gives you the answers and the messages of what's going on in your life. And if you can listen to them, it gives you a big leg up, head start, and to getting things corrected. But with lucid dreams, there's two kinds of, at least in my world, two different kinds of lucid dreaming. There's the lucid dream where you wake up into your dream, you're dreaming, and there's no question, and you can participate in the dream, and you can change your environment, and there are so many other things that can occur. But the other part is conscious dreaming, and they're both about lucid dreaming, waking up in your dreams and having some type of an effect on the dream environment. But conscious dreaming is about allowing the higher self rather than the ego. The ego with the lucid dreaming, and conscious dreaming is the higher self. You allow the higher self to dictate the direction of your dream, whereas with the other lucid dreaming, you just let it fly, and you can participate in any imaginable thing that you can come up with.
And that's really interesting, because I think so many people don't realize that they actually can influence their dreams, or that they have control in their dreams. I think a lot of people that I've known along the way felt like they were just at the mercy of everything that was happening there. I learned that, as you say, waking up in a dream, which is really interesting to use that term, being conscious dreaming, I learned that, yes, once I have this power that I could turn around, I could change things, I can adjust things, and I could use that then as a tool to kind of maybe work through something, or to face a fear, or things like that. And then when I would wake up the next day, I would be much more ready to tackle the day, because there was that parallel of working in that dream state that then removed maybe some fear I had going on.
Right. It can remove a lot of blocks. And your listeners, I would like to say there's a book, and it's called Lucid Dreaming by Dr. Stephen LaBerge. And then The Conscious Dreaming is by Robert Moss, and he's a great writer, a great speaker. And I think both those books would be very helpful for people that are interested in lucid dreaming.
And I think that's really, I'm glad that you shared that, because I think it is something that people, especially as we've brought the indigo generation in, that we're tuning more into dreams. I noticed the younger generations are wanting to have a natural affinity to working with a lot of these spiritual tools that maybe weren't as naturally embraced in my generation when I was growing up, because I know when I talked about having dreams and premonitions and it was like real life and everything for me, then people would look at me like I was nuts, and they're like, I didn't know until I was in, I want to say high school, I think it was, that it wasn't normal to dream in color. I thought everybody dreamed like it was in real life. I didn't know I was different, really, until I hit that space, and then people were like, I never remember my dreams, and I never dream in color, and it never seems like real life. And
well, it's very important to talk and discuss your dreams with, probably first should be your family, but in our culture, dreams and dream work really is kind of frowned upon, because I think people are frightened of it. But before we had electricity, man used to have first and second dreams. You go to bed when the sun went down, and then they would dream sleep for 3 to 4 hours. And if they had dreams, or if not, they would wake up around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. They would get together, they would talk, they would share their dreams, and discuss what they might do in their dreams, what the dreams meant, and then they would go back to sleep for another few hours and wake up to meet the day. And that is something that we, as our society, our culture, talking about Americans, we just don't do. And I think that's beginning to come back, because there are a lot of people like yourself, like myself, that dream very often. And what do you do with your dreams? I mean, your dreams are telling you, that's an open dialogue with your subconscious and the other worlds, whether it's the first, second, and third level of the world, or if it's the astral world, as you were talking about. Who knows, unless you have people to discuss that with. So it's really important for people, if they're interested in dreams, to get a few people together and have a group and talk about your dreams, journal your dreams, and see what you can come up with.
And it's funny, because I'm not a big journal person, but I do feel like when you're going through phases where you do want to get the messages of your dreams, it's really useful to have a little recorder or something that you can stop and jot dreams down on upon waking, or if you stir in the middle of the night, because I know it can be very hard to remember some of those details in there. So it is the one area where I think that journaling can be really useful and reflective, as you say, in discussing some of these things to get some of the different ideas. Now, you started to delve into something, and I want to get into that. How does someone differentiate between astral traveling and dreams? Is this just a terminology thing, or are these different states to you? And then you mentioned also the first, second, and third worlds. So I'd love for you to discuss that a little bit more, because I'm sure there's a few questions out there about that.
Sure. Okay. Well, in regards to astral travel, that is very specific. That is, I've mentioned that it takes time and effort to be able to participate in it spiritually and intellectually. And then, as you mentioned at the beginning of your show, I'm also a shamanic practitioner, and there are the three different levels of the shamanic world. and that's the lower, middle, and upper levels of the world. And most people would associate the astral plane with the lower level, and it's a personal distinction. And just like dreams, and you were also talking about Freud and Jung and other people that have opened up about dreams, they all have their own opinions of what dreams mean. So with the astral level, like I said, to me, it's a specific distinction away from the other three levels, but that's just my opinion.
And so,
go ahead.
So you're kind of putting the astral travel in the lower or first world.
Right. It's more difficult to move. It's thicker. It's a thicker environment, and it's when usually when people are in discord, that when they go to sleep, their soul loosens from the physical body and travels, but it doesn't travel very far, and it's on its own. It's not being directed by the individual, and at times it's being directed by other energies, if you will. So
okay.
it's very, it's a very, it can be a potentially dangerous practice if you're unaware of what's going on.
I think that's a good point, that practicing astral travel under safe conditions, there's certainly things I know that when I've done that on a conscious level, I used to always, for example, surround myself with white light or something to provide protective energy around my body. Because of those different things, that shifting and that exiting out. And I think it's something that is intriguing for people, but they don't always realize that, yes, indeed, there are risks or inherent risks that could be there. Now, when you say that other entities might be guiding them, what do you mean by that? Because I could sense a couple of panic buttons going off out there going, what? Somebody else is guiding me? Like, is it evil? Is it bad?
Well, it's dependent upon your personal perspective. But what I may have said entities, but I meant energies, and it's usually, at least from my experience and from what I've been taught, is when the person, the individual, is in spiritual, emotional discord, that they go to sleep exhausted, troubled, and they fall into what we call troubled sleep. And that's when they have these horrible dreams of walking through, cities or towns that have just been devastated, crumbling, and there's dark shadows lurking all about. That's the lower world or astral level, and if you're in that kind of discord, you're going to be visited by any number of entities or energies that live in those worlds. I mean, that's where they live, and we live in this world. And when our physical body is gone to sleep, we travel and we go other places. And that's why I really feel it's important for all your listeners to understand that when you're not being honest with yourself, you're not working to be the best person you can be, you're taking a chance of not being able to work with your dreams and work in this world, helping others if you're really not taking care of yourself. So really important to be grounded, like you said, have your guides, have the people that you call to protect you, whether they're angels, spirit guides, Reiki guides, whatever. You meet these guides, entities along the way, and they're there to help you. So it's very important to be honest with yourself and stay away from those negative thoughts, negative environments. It will pull you down for when you go to sleep.
Definitely, and I do find that a lot of times whatever's on your mind, I was actually trained in a process of reverie to clear things from the day, specifically so I wouldn't go to bed carrying the stress or the tensions or the traumas from the day, because it is so disruptive to our sleep. And as you say, we tend to go then into these realms where we're experiencing things on that realm. And I think part of the danger as far as our thought process is it's locking into our brain to a certain extent. It's locking in, and our brain is registering that as it's putting it out as a picture to the universe, and the universe is going, oh, you want that.
Right.
And then you start drawing more of that in to your environment, and that's why I think a lot of times we see these cycles going on with people where they have a rough physical life, they lay down, they go to sleep, they drift off and end up having a rough, dream state time, and they come back and it gets more challenging. So I agree with you. It's very important that we focus on that shift of thoughts, that we take that time to clear our thoughts before we lay down at night, because it really can make a difference. I mean, when you think about it, the average person is asleep at least 6 to 8 hours, a good almost third to a quarter of our day, and what's happening during those thoughts is going to be pretty powerful as to what happens in our life.
Absolutely, and Jesse, I read your bio on your website, and you have been trained in how to do what you do. You have a very strong familial background in what you do and how to take care of yourself and protect yourself. And too many people try to engage in this kind of work without having any kind of instruction, and a lot of times they fall into bad habits, and then they end up with those difficult nights that'll turn into difficult days because they didn't sleep. They have those, it's like a hangover of whatever it is that you're dreaming. So it's important to find somebody or do some research in how to ground yourself, how to protect yourself. It's not very hard. And if you don't mind, I'll just give a quick exercise for those that are listening.
Perfect.
If you've had a long day and you're tired and you just want to clear those thoughts away, and I do this with my clients when I do work on them on the table, and it's called the second attention practice exercise. And all you have to do is you're in bed, you already have your eyes closed, and you move your eyes from left to right. You do that a couple times. Look up and down. Again, you keep your eyelids closed, and then you do large circles, then you do smaller circles, and then you can do diagonal exercises with your eyes. And this helps clean the slate, and your brain is ready to relax and to go and do whatever it is that we go to do, because we all have different activities that we do when we go to sleep. So that's a real easy, simple one.
That is really simple. And now that eye movement, is it doing something that's related to like rapid eye movement? Is it?
Well, it's clear. Yeah. I can't say exactly what it does, in a scientific form, but from my experience in my practice, is what it does is it allows the brain to reset itself, let's say, and all that's been going on during that day, and particularly if you're troubled, if you're upset, this is a way to just clean that slate and allow for the brain to reset, and then for you to get in that relaxed state.
I think that's very cool. I like that term, brain reset.
Yeah, because I believe that's what it does.
Stop and reset my brain now. It's a great term. It's a great terminology for things, and very useful. I want to jump back a little bit. You
Sure.
talked about what it's like in the first or the lower world. What is it like in that middle and second world, or the upper and third world?
Right. Okay. Well, number one, you have to intend. You have to be able to do that, to do the travel. it's really easy, like I said, to do the astral, especially when you are in emotional discord, and then to journey to the lower, middle, and upper world is it's a work that, for most people, it's a work in progress, and it's something that they need to intentionally work on. It's not something you can just do. It takes time. But to answer what it's like there, the lower level, I think I mentioned it's a lot thicker. Things are darker. Everything is slower. And the middle world is more like this one. And the upper world is the one where you meet your higher self, higher beings, and have higher experiences. So it's, again, you need to take care of yourself and not be doing things that are harmful to yourself or to others. It's a practice that takes time to, get any good at.
Yeah, and that is a true thing, and I think you just pinpointed the differences of where we're at, and there's so many things out there that relate, whether your vibrational energy is heavy or whether it's light, and so if you're traveling out there and it is a lot of this darkness and things like that, you're susceptible to a lot of things, and then like you say, if people are coming in and they're seeing things more like how they would see them in their everyday life, there's a little more of a balance there. At least they're not totally disruptive, or they may be dealing with things. And then the upper and the spiritual, that might be where people experience more things like flying dreams and timelessness, and things are, they're not necessarily relating to things we would know on the physical plane, but it's all a very much more compatible, loving space experience.
Absolutely, and a number of my lucid dreams, they're just, I just, for 2-3 days after having a really nice lucid dream, I just feel charged and energized for the next 2 or 3 days. It's a wonderful feeling, and I don't know the words to explain it, but it's just a wonderful feeling, and it's something to work for.
I agree, and I think that just those levels or the types of dreams we're having there give us a great amount of insight as to where we're at in our waking physical life, and where we're dealing, where we're operating mentally, and can help us to stop and say, okay, well, what are my thoughts? Because if I'm having these experiences, my thoughts, if they're not conscious, have got to be in this realm, and if I'm having these other experiences, then my thoughts have got to be doing pretty good, and they're progressing me, and so that's kind of going to give me a key that, hey, I might be on the right track here of things.
Yes, right.
Now,
if go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go right ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that, as I mentioned earlier, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're paying attention to what you're thinking and what you're doing, your dream reference isn't going to be, it shouldn't be out of accord into what you're doing in your waking life, like what you just said. No, I was just agreeing with you. And that's why I say check yourself, see where you're at in your life, and your dreams are going to really help direct you to where you're at.
Now talking about that, because we're kind of looking at those meanings and those insights with dreams, and knowing what the space is like that we're in can definitely give us this insight personally as to what's happening with us and where we're at. But are there like certain meanings for dreams? Are there meanings behind these experiences? Because when we look at these different books, and of course I cited earlier in the show when I was reading stuff about Zolar and about Gustavus and then Freud, and they've all got their different thoughts, and I think certainly people need to find the things that align for them when they're looking for dream interpretation. but it seems like it can be confusing to somebody who's just trying to start learning about this, because sometimes it's a literal meaning and sometimes it's completely polar opposite. So what are your takes on dream meanings?
Okay, well, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because in Robert Moss's book, Conscious Dreaming, and I say this a lot in my classes, and I live by it, or I dream by it, and that is only you can give a good interpretation of your dream. So if you're doing any kind of dream work, you'll say, if you're going to give some opinion to somebody's dream, you say, if it were my dream, this is how I would interpret it. But when with Freud, he called it dream royal road to the unconscious, and Jung, he felt that it was all about the personality, and if you were an aggressive person, you're going to have aggressive dreams. And then with J. Allen Hobson, another dream researcher, he thought it was all about neurochemicals. So you're right. Everybody has a different meaning to what the dreams are, and that's why it's so very important, Jesse, for people, and I know it's a pain for some to journal, but it's really important to document your dreams in one way or another. Our smartphones now, you can record on them, so you can just put your phone next to your bed. You can have a recorder, a small little book just to write down a few pieces of the dream. But the meanings of dreams, I think they're pretty archetypical, because, like you said, you at one point, if I heard you correctly, you had a lot of dreams about flying, and flying for a lot of people is I'm sorry?
Yeah, flying and ice skating.
And ice skating, right. So, I mean, that sounds joyous. It sounds free, and, happy. This is things that we enjoy doing. So, it's not too hard to put that to how, where you are, where you're at in your life at that time. But you can really, at least I can, get really confused with all the meanings of the dream interpretations, as you noted in a number of books when you're doing the introduction. So it's important for the individual to do a little research on their own, but it's way, way more important to do the work, which is, like I said, to do the documentation, to have discussions. Very important to have discussions, and you would be surprised how many dreams you'll remember that you didn't remember when you begin talking about your dreams to other people. And I think it's a relatively easy thing to apply the meanings of your dreams to your own personal experience and perspective.
I think you bring in a really good point there, because being a person who knows a lot of different symbolism, who deals with a lot of different aspects of things and representations of things, for example, having dealt with herbalism and things like that. So if I saw certain plants in dreams, there could be certain influences that are calling to me that are related to those plants, and elemental influences and energetic influences and all these things. And certainly there's some standard meanings for things, as we know, in symbolism, that certain things mean certain things. A rainbow means, good fortune coming, or, as we say, usually flying dreams are about elevating or connecting with spirit, and usually indicate progression and development and different things like that. But then there's also, as you're bringing up, those personal aspects, which are so important, because what might be very exciting to you could be terrifying to me.
Right.
I mean, for example, if we take snakes, and you might just be a person that absolutely loves snakes, and you think, wow, look at all this great healing energy, and it aligns me with my Egyptian past life, and I'm sitting there going, oh no, not snakes.
No, right.
my bane. That's like the bad news for me. That's been an indication of disease in my body or things. And so, yeah, you bring up a great point on that, and I think people do need to balance that out with what something represents to them personally.
Right, absolutely. And with the Australian Aborigines, they have what's called the dream time. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it, but the dream time is considered a sacred era where the ancestral totemic spirit beings created the world. So in the dream time, the Australian Aborigines feel that our existence was created in a dream. And what a totemic is, it's a natural object or animal believed to have a particular society, to have a spiritual significance or adopted as an emblem. And to give you an example, they'll say, I had kangaroo dreaming or shark dreaming or honey ant dreaming. So the symbolism is personal, but it's an archetype of every, that culture, those people understand what they're talking about. So the symbolism is very important, and what a kangaroo dreaming to somebody could mean something, like you said, very scary to another person. It's just a matter of personal perspective and experience.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is, and it's definitely there's different facets that come into play there, and I've seen that. I think too, if people are going to work with a dream book, it's worth kind of checking out ones like you've suggested, or whatever ones are out there, and seeing which one actually aligns to them and seems to match up with what actually happens in their life.
Yeah.
Because there are just so many variations, and then, as you say, learning to balance those things as to whether something's joyous or not joyous, or these different things. Now, yeah, so it's hard. It's hard to get into those dream meanings. What do you associate, for example? And I have a lot of people that do this, and I have some of my own thoughts on it. But when people are dreaming of, for example, past or present lovers, do you have any particular correlation with that?
Well, I do, and it's not going to be as juicy or fanciful as maybe somebody would want, but generally speaking, and from my experience and from what I taught, is a past lover is really you're associating that time of your life to what's going on currently in your life. So, we meet people and then we move on and we never see them again, but that experience always stays with us. So that's really a strong reference point to where we're at emotionally and possibly spiritually at the time we have those dreams. That's an association of, that emotional feed that you had with that person or that experience and that time period. I could go on and say other things, Jesse, but you know what? Like I mentioned earlier, there are so many interpretations of personal experiences, and really the only person that can do that is the one who had that dream. And it really confuses me with psychology now is that psychologists, psychiatrists, they really want to talk to you about your dreams, but they have it so structured that there are no allowances for anything outside of their, the scientific perspective that they have and kind of hammered into their heads as they're going through medical school.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's true, and I think people do get very narrowly focused on some of those things when they're coming from that psychology perspective. I think some of it is very valuable, don't get me wrong, and I think that
right.
I think it has its place, and like all tools, it's a tool that helps us with better understanding, and as I say with a lot of people, you have to use the tools you're given, and two, you have to be a little bit open as far as seeing if it really applies to you and if it's really something that you're feeling that you resonate with. Because if it's not resonating with you, it's not going to be a very good gauge of what's happening for you.
Right. And what I was going to say, Jesse, is that with Jung, he did a lot of dream work, and he referenced a lot of that work to his experience with shamans. I mean, he traveled the world, and he studied with them and shared their different ideas and imaginings, and it was really way off from what traditional psychologists and psychiatrists would talk to you about. So again, I'm trying not to attack that modality, but the thing is that it's really very restrictive in the sense of being able to explore just exactly what's going on in your dreams, and that's really contrary to what DreamWork's all about. It's really making things more open for you rather than constricting them. So it's just that's why I say it's confusing to me, because there's really been some really great work done by traditional psychologists, psychiatrists, but then they turn around, or it's turned around and stops and goes in a completely different direction, a non-functional one at that. So it's just, that's why I think it's so important, Jesse, for the listeners and anyone who's involved or wants to become involved with dream work to, do the work, like I said, and use their own personal experience. And it's not that hard, really, to come about and see what's going on, what your dreams are trying to tell you.
And not be discouraged by the process, because it takes practice to kind of lock in that memory. And a lot of times I'll ask to remember something before I fall asleep. I'll ask to remember what I dream about, or taking that practice, especially as you're just starting to work with dreams, to do that journaling, I think is very valuable, to put thought to paper, so to say, with that. And it does. I think that's really it. It's about practice to learn how it's applying to you directly. Curtis, I've got somebody in my caller queue that looks like they would like to ask a question. Are you open to taking a caller?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Let's see what this person is at, and they're from the 619 area code. And sometimes my system's a little funky, so I'm just kind of letting people know if something happened to the caller. Sometimes the system's a little funky with taking callers. So let's open their mic. And, well, if it's going to allow me to open that mic up, we'll see. Come on.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, how are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for taking my call. I'm listening by phone because I don't have a computer. But I wanted to ask you, what does it serve to have dreams where you cannot remember all of them? I mean, on some level, are they serving some purpose where you cannot possibly remember them to analyze them, and yet you're having them anyway? So what purpose do those dreams serve?
Is that question for me, Jesse?
That's for you, Curtis. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a really good question, and but it's pretty easy to answer. At least for me, is the reason that you're not remembering those parts of those dreams. That's just really a glitch in what you're failing to respond to. Dream work, that's exactly what it is. It's work, and there are things that we're not willing to open up to, even with ourselves. But the dream is really it's a dialogue with the unconscious, the subconscious. It's a avenue to an entirely different world than the one we're used to. But to answer your question, it's just that there's a block there, and that's why if you write down your dreams, I don't know if you were listening earlier, but if you write down your dreams and you can discuss them with somebody, or even just reflect on your journal, you'll begin to remember other pieces of that dream. That you're telling your subconscious that, okay, I'm willing to work with you. I'm listening. So
the process of doing it, kind of like if you were like working a muscle that you haven't used in a long time.
I think that's a good analogy. Yes.
And the other thing is, I remember I think I heard this clairaudiently that recently the message was you can create in the dream state.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Particularly, in lucid dreaming, you can. I'm sorry.
I guess that's what they're referring to.
Yeah, and with lucid dreaming, you can create any type of environment that you want. You can create a workshop. You can have anybody that you would love to have spoken to, whether they're alive or deceased. I mean, it's incredible what your mind is capable of doing in the world that you can function within.
But is that kind of creating also powerful enough to be manifest in the physical world, what you're doing in the dream state?
Well, that's a good question as well, and that's something that you would work on in your dream workshop.
Okay. Yes.
And
you know what? I used to do that years ago because I had this book called On Alpha Thinking, where you create the workshop and you have this person as helper, and to me, the helper seemed real.
Well, why would you think it's not?
Because I thought it was just my imagination that I was creating this entity. Yeah. And
this was within your dream, is that correct?
No, it was within going within the alpha state. Yeah, your alpha state. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse and I were discussing earlier. I mean, there are all kinds of guides, there are all kinds of energies in different dimensions. So, yeah, it's absolutely out there.
Wonderful. Great show. I'd like to stay on the line and listen to the rest of it.
Great.
I'm going to
thank you for the questions. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's some great questions there to delve into and to look at. Now, Curtis, I also know that you do this astrology, and you have quite a few different aspects of astrology that you do. And does astrology play any role into our dreams?
Absolutely. And again, like I said, the kind of work that we do, it just intersects all different almost everything. You were talking about the water houses, the water signs, also known as the karmic houses, the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th houses. Those are your water naturally, in the natural progression of the zodiac. That's Cancer, the 4th house, Scorpio, the 8th, and Pisces, the 12th house. So those are called karmic houses, and that's because it's about your psychic energy, psychic abilities, or lack thereof. And a lot of things accumulate there. I consider those houses similar to the chakras of our physical body. And as far as astrology goes, it's not just. There are so many other components astrologically to say this person, is predisposed to dreaming or anything else. There are so many other components that need to be connected before you can make that determination. But I was looking at your chart. I'm not going to tell anybody what it is, but I understand exactly why dreaming is so important to you. And what's called in astrology, a long time ago, I saw it in one of the one of the older books, those little blue ones. I don't know if you remember seeing them at the used bookstores. I can't remember
the ephemeris.
No, it wasn't the ephemeris. It was a society that wrote these books, and they're little tiny books, little blue books, but they called lucid dreaming dreaming true. And when anybody has a planet, but more importantly, a personal planet like the sun or the moon in the 8th house, they have an extraordinary predisposition to being able to dream true, and that goes with the other two water houses as well. So yeah, astrology and dreaming go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I find that I think that is something that we look at, in that realm, that aspect that, as I mentioned before, I think a lot of people naturally do dream when the sun enters a water sign, particularly when we look at when it enters a sign like, for example, Scorpio. We have a lot of different cultural influences that play into that because they say the veils are very thin at Halloween, one of the thinnest times of year where the veil is the thinnest between worlds. So it's very easy to pass. It's very easy to access that information, and it's also a time of year where it's more introspective. It's naturally more reflective. So delving into dreams, I would say Scorpio is one of those big powerhouse times. It's always fascinated me, though, too, particularly in recent years, the alignment with sun signs and acceleration in dreams. And I wonder a little bit, too, if whatever sign our sun is in, that we're more prone to dreaming.
Okay. Well, like I said, with your birth chart and your natal planets, they're there in that picture, that snapshot of the sky when you were born, and they always stay there. And so, like I said, with the water houses and some other connections, there's a predisposition for this or for that, and with dreaming, it's the water houses. But Jesse, I find people are more inclined to relate to the psychic, spiritual, and emotional aspects of the physical life with the moon sign, and because the moon sign is really what we're here for. And then then you get into the lunar nodes. But what I want to emphasize here is that from the day we're born, our chart, just like a little combination lock, is moving. It's incrementally moving up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So if your sun sign, say, progresses, say you were born and you had 24 degrees Libra, well, in about 6 years or so, it's going to progress into the sign of Scorpio. And then you have about 30 years of that sun sign being in there through a solar arc progression. And so those are your cycles I think you might be talking about, and it's not just with solar arcs, secondary, primary progressions, transits. There are a lot of different charts, that can move your planets around because your chart is alive. It really is. It's a living organism, and that's why it's so fascinating to me. It gives up so much information if you know how to listen, and if you have learned it properly. It's going to give you a lot of information, and I think that's why it was so valuable for so long. In fact, it's my belief that all major religions are based upon, the theology of our stars. That's man was lunar-based worshipers at the very beginning, which was headed by women, and I don't know what happened. I don't know how women lost the grip of being in charge, but that's in the process of changing as well. So it's all cyclical. And
right.
astrology really is such a valuable tool in giving and allowing us this information. So to answer your question, Jesse, and I didn't mean to go the long way around, but the sun signs, it does help. And again, it does progress, depends what time of your life it's going into another sign or moving into another house. That's very important, but also with the moon, and also the houses progress. Everything changes.
Right. And that is a key thing, no matter what we're looking at, is everything is always shifting and changing and adjusting, and that explanation of how our charts progress, and for those people that are out there that are still trying to learn about a lot of these things, the chart is, as you say, it's basically a moment in time that maps the sky out at the time you were born. And
right, your
then, of course,
yeah.
variations. And then, so this is why we could maybe not have a lot of dreams at one point in our life, or feel very blocked to our dreams at one point in our life, but then 5 or 6 years later, all of a sudden we're totally abundant in our dreams.
Exactly.
Because depending on what's hitting, as you say, the 8th house, for example, or maybe even the 12th house, the house of mysteries and hidden information, that might be a time where, for example, like our previous caller, might have some stuff going on in the 12th house where they know that they're dreaming, but they're not necessarily able to bring it back into their conscious mind. And then however many, where that moon is positioned, is that moon positioned in something that's related to self-discovery, or is that moon in a positioning that is more related to activity and not, as you say, not resting as well with things?
Right. And to reiterate, some people with that snapshot, their natal birth chart, it's always going to be that way. And so if they're predisposed to dreaming, they're going to dream pretty well for their whole life, but they're going to have their ups and downs like anyone else because of the progressions and the transitions of the planets and the houses.
And it's true, and I know I always bring a little bit of feng shui in if somebody's having trouble with dreams, or they're constantly having nightmares or things. I know sometimes the feng shui, sometimes just adjusting our bed so that it gets in a direction that's more compatible with our influences or our natural personal elements, can be very, very useful to helping activate that or block it or whatever. And, which leads me to something that also happens with people. You have that whole phase of, it's really hard for me to remember my dreams. And then you have those other phases like, I'm so active at night, I'm exhausted when I wake up. And going through that question, and I think most people, as they're opening their gifts up, whether it's through dreams or other gifts, they'll hit those phases where it becomes so intense at certain points in their life, and maybe it's really pushing their spiritual borders, so to say, and it's like, maybe I should just shut this down for a while. Have you ever thought about shutting down?
That's a really great idea, but I don't know that it's very easy to implement. To shut down the dreaming, it's not going to happen unless you have really good influence over the subconscious and your spiritual, emotional self. It's not something that can be easily done. I mean, you have the masters, the Tibetan monks, the ones in India. I mean, the religious practitioners who they've studied their whole lives on how to control or to affect these abilities. They're the ones that would be able to shut it down, but people like us, I don't think that we could consciously do that. But I could be wrong.
I feel like people get to a point where they feel like their envelope's being pushed sometimes in their spiritual gifts, and the tendency is to say, I need a break, but what we need to learn to do is to say, ask for help and how to deal with it, because being a person who's done a little bit of a shutdown in the past deliberately because I needed that break, and knowing some other people that have done that, it's one of those things that once you do it, it's really hard to get some of that back.
Yes.
And I know I spent years and years and years trying to get it back.
So were you able to shut it down, Jesse?
I was able to shut it down, not 100%, but I was able to definitely take everything down for a while, but I don't recommend it to people because the amount of energy to get it back, and it's almost like when you do that, it's kind of an aspect like leaving yourself unprotected. We think it's intense when we're dealing with it, but then when you're without it, you don't realize how much information and how much insight, thus how much protection it was giving you along the way. And so if people are feeling that intensity level, I would suggest, trying some different things of, again, asking your guides or divine presence for assistance in processing it and dealing with it. And it becomes more of a processing, because I think when it gets overwhelming, it's because we're not processing the information.
I agree with you. And for people who feel so stressed, if they get to that point, go, like you said earlier, get some help. And there's a lot of different energetic modalities out there. I think Reiki is a great one. And any kind of shamanic work, any energetics, it will be helpful to soothing and calming the physical body, which is really the thing that's under stress, and just get some help. Yeah, but don't. I was gonna say, don't go to the doctor to get medication to settle you down, because then that really that's just amplifying the shutdown.
Yeah, and it doesn't really help, because then a lot of times those medications, you can feel very out of control with things, and it's much more challenging to deal with. But that factor of, and you just mentioned it a minute ago, shifting, like you say, we can shift things with our diet and things that make it less intense. Paying attention to our physical aspects, making sure we're getting some of the physical exercise can allow us to rest better. I know I've got a couple of little home remedies that I use with spices and warm almond milk that also help along the way. But getting that clearness, I think, that you talked about at the beginning, closer to the beginning, where you're taking that stress off so that you can move more into the second and the third worlds, particularly the third worlds, and focusing on practicing getting to that space, because then you're not being drained out or depleted or feeling exhausted so much when you wake up, because you've had that other spiritual experience, which really opens you up and energizes you. And I would suggest people focus on practicing to get to that stage instead of a shutdown as well.
Yes, I agree.
Very, very important there. So this is really insightful. I mean, I'm loving this. I hope you're enjoying having you here.
I am. Thank you. I'm enjoying it as well.
And what about those people who are not having dreams?
Right.
I mean, how can they increase their capability to have dreams?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, first, I would ask them, or have them ask themselves why they feel they're not dreaming, because they're really blocking. They're consciously blocking something out, and it could be, from, it's a core issue, and so it could be from childhood, it could be at any point in their lives, but they're unwilling to acknowledge that they're to deal with something. It's a core, very powerful issue, and that's what's going on. I mean, that's been my experience, and they just need to be more open to the experience of dreaming, and subconsciously know that, okay, if I dream, these issues are going to come up, and this is why I don't want to dream. And so it's just, it's a vicious cycle. So they need to, that's why journaling is so important, Jesse. And I know not everyone likes to journal. I mean, I don't like to journal, but it's been helpful to me. And it's just not easy to become consistent until you start doing it. But
right.
And you start going back to your dreams, you're going to start to see a theme coming up of the type of dreams that you're having, the symbols that are coming up, the kinds of people that show up, the kinds of events that are happening. Again, it's your subconscious trying to create dialogue with your conscious mind. And if you refuse to, allow that to happen, you're going to block your dreams. They're going to be fragmented, and it just wears you down, and it makes it the next day very difficult. So for somebody who's not dreaming and wants to dream, I would have them ask themselves and write on a piece of paper, literally write down, why aren't I dreaming? Why can I not recall my dream? Then just let it sit and go to sleep and see what comes up, hopefully in the dream that night or the next, over the next few nights.
I think that's really great, and I love that you bring up this aspect of blocking and avoidance, because we do see these parallels in our waking life that our dreams are trying to show us. And
right.
And there may be a fear with letting go of the physical. That could indicate aspects of needing to control or being afraid to let go and let God, as they say, take over. And ironically, as much as people want to have that trust, they have a huge fear there. So I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up, is looking at that. And patterns, I've noticed too, seem to be very much related to soul processes or karmic processes that we're clearing. So if we're seeing the same type of pattern, even if the basic setting changes or the characters change, but the pattern of what's happening is the same, it seems like it's oftentimes related to maybe a bigger soul process we're trying to break through.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, Jesse, those themes, or even I was talking to somebody the other day, and he had a dream, and he's had some difficulties with family, and he was talking about he had been riding his bike, and it was a long way from where he lived, but he was following a vehicle that was a family member, and he just couldn't catch up, and he rode to a place called Seaside. And he couldn't understand, well, what's that about, because it's so far away from where he actually lives physically. And it could be as simple as that person refuses to see his side of whatever it is that, they're having a problem with. So that kind of thing, you write it down. You may not see it initially, but you go back and review your dreams after 3, 4, 5 dreams, that thing will already be showing itself. So, and it can be as simple as something like that if you're willing to, look for that kind of information. So, yeah.
Right. Exactly. I've got somebody in chat with a question, and they're wondering if you can enter, let me jump back here. They just added some more here. Can you enter the dream state through yogi sleep or while in yogi sleep? And they were mentioning that when they were on their 10-day silent retreat, the meditation sessions were 12 hours a day. As a result, they developed the yogi sleep state, and this state appears that the person is awake and even feels awake, but actually the person is asleep.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a wonderful question, but I'm not familiar with. I've never been a yogi, and I don't know any yogis. I am familiar with the fact that they can put themselves in a altered state very easily, and it sounds like the yogi. It sounds to me, and I don't know this, but it does sound very similar to a lucid dream. because that's really what your dream states are altered states, and it's all dependent upon the brain waves and the different cycles that you need to get into able to dream. So yogis could do that very quickly, and it sounds like this person put themselves in a state to where they were in the lucid dream state.
Yeah, and it does sound very much like that in that aspect. And I do know the kind of state that they're talking about, where you're actually awake but you're tranced, and I think what's happening there is they're going into certain brain waves that are the same brain waves that we would experience in dream states.
Well, so are you talking about where they're paralyzed, where they cannot move?
Well, in these meditation areas, like they're talking about the yogi sleep aspect. I mean, you're awake, but you're kind of in a trance in a way, because you're in such a deep meditational state, and your mind is so open and so receptive, and it's dropping into different brainwave patterns that are more susceptible to having dreams, right? Because you've got the different brain waves.
Right, switching from just on the cusp of one cycle to the other, and there is a dream state called the false awakening state, and that's where you're shifting from one cycle to another, and you can't. You think you're awake, and probably you are, but you can't move, and they become terrified. But I don't know that's not the yogi sleep, is it, Jesse?
I'm not 100% certain, because I haven't operated. No, he says no. It's not the same.
Oh.
I'm getting that affirmation in my chat.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I think there is a little bit of variation there. But I think you're probably close to relating it to the lucid dreaming, but you're a little more awake than that, because you're a little more conscious. It's I would say a bridging, if I'm correct, between that conscious and subconscious state.
Okay, because with the lucid dream, Jesse, there's no question that you know you're dreaming, and you can function in your environment, and you have complete control over it. So there is no question about what you're doing. And I'm sure most, I'm assuming that most, like monks, yogis, they're trained to get into these altered states and to do them very quickly. And that sounds very, very similar. So quite possibly it could be that, but I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. So that's so much information, so much wonderful, incredible stuff here. I'm so excited. And you gave us a great little tool for resetting the brain before evening time or before going to sleep. So that I think was really useful, and that's going to be very, very helpful for people as far as getting that clarity before they kind of drift off in the evening or at night or things like that. And are there any other little exercises or techniques that are quick and short like that you happen to have in your back pocket?
Well, I do, and it's just it's a basic lucid dream incubation technique. And do we have time for that?
How much time do we need?
I don't know, a couple minutes.
Yep, got time for it.
Okay. So to incubate your dream, first, it's very simple. Formulate your intention before bedtime. Come up with a single phrase or question encapsulating the topic you wish to dream about, such as I want to go to Paris, France. So write down the phrase and maybe even draw a picture illustrating the question. Next, just go to bed immediately after doing this, okay? When you formulated your intention, don't go brush your teeth. Now go directly to bed and turn the light out. And then focus on your phrase and intention to become lucid. Recall your phrase or image that you drew. Visualize yourself dreaming about the topic. and becoming lucid in the dream. So this is you're visualizing that. Next is pursue your intention in the lucid dream. Now we're assuming that you're in your lucid dream, so carry out your intention while in a lucid dream about the topic. Ask the question you wish to ask. Seek ways to express yourself. Be sure to notice your feelings and be observant of all details. And then finally, when you've achieved your goal, remember to awaken and recall the dream. Now, most people aren't going to be able to do this on the first 10, 20 times, but you get in the habit of telling yourself that you're going to dream before you go to sleep. Again, don't tell yourself and then get up and go do something else. Do it when you know you're going to go to sleep and not get up. Tell yourself you're going to dream and what you want to dream about, and then just let it go. Do the eye exercises and drift off and go. And the next morning, just write it down or record it or tell somebody, because you can lose your dream so easily, as I'm sure you know, Jesse. It's literally like having sand, going between your fingers, and you can't keep it from, can't stop it from going through. So really important to do these things and try to be as consistent as you can. It's important to have dream cues, to be cognizant of dream cues, such as you're in a dream and you're just getting ready to go into the lucid state, and it's very easy to lose that. So a dream cue is something like, I'm walking on the water. In my 9th grade, English teacher is lecturing me. The person next to you has the head of a parrot. I'm driving my car in the sky. I'm underwater, yet I'm breathing. Things like that are cues that you're getting ready to enter the dream state of becoming lucid. And there's an interesting, I was discussing this today, actually. When I know my dream, I'm just becoming into my lucid dream, I hear this little compressor motor going, bup, 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 bup. It's crazy. But everybody tells me the same thing. And it sounds exactly, and that's how I know that I'm getting ready to go into my lucid dream, and it opens up, everything opens up. And so there are cues to get you to that state, and in that state of the little, or the tearing of a sheet, sounds like that. They're sounds. Tastes or smells, those are telling you that you're getting ready to get into the lucid dream state. So those are pretty good techniques. They're very simple, and you can get these techniques through books or go online. Again, Stephen LaBerge and Robert Moss, they're great writers and lucid dream researchers. So you can get a lot of great information just from those 2 books, and you can get them for a couple bucks each on Amazon. That's how I got mine. Because you end up loaning them out and you never get them back, so you have to replace them. And I went to Amazon.com. So there's tons of ways to do that, and I find it interesting. I didn't know that you were an author of 4 books, Jesse. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I just got the last 2 out on the full moon, so it's very exciting. It's very
perfect.
Very stuff. Of course, people can also work with you if they're in that area or things. So go ahead and share with our listeners, how do they reach you if they want to contact you, if they want to find out more about your work?
Okay, thank you. My website is www.astrologyreiki.com, and Reiki is spelled R-E-I-K-I. And my phone number, you can get me at my phone number. It's area code 805-234-7615, 805-234-7615. And my email, if you go to my website, my email is on there, and you can get through to me in a number of ways. And so I think that would cover that, Jesse.
And that's great. And I've got one last question that just popped in on the chat room, and they're saying, how would you compare lucid dreaming to shamanic journeying?
I'd say that they're the one and the same. It's just the perspective that you're coming from. Yeah, shamanic dreaming, you're a shamanic practitioner, and with lucid dreaming, you're a lucid dreamer. So it's just the perspective you're coming from.
it's more of a terminology thing and the cultural influence of it, but basically the same there. Absolutely perfect. It has been a real pleasure to have you here, and I do encourage people to go in and check out your website and to see the things that you have going on, and to check out the other work that you're doing, because you really have a lot going on and a lot of different options of things, from workshops to the courses that you teach and working with clients privately and things like that. And you've got a huge, vast background that I think you bring things kind of like I do in a way that you explain them easily for people to understand. You know how to kind of translate some of the terminology for them and explain what's happening there, as well as the charts. And I think charts are just such a great insight, especially progressed charts and relocation charts and things like that, because I do know that affects us and can affect our dreams. That certain places you might be more susceptible to dreaming than other places as a result of that. So if you'd like to explore Curtis's work, definitely go and check that out. And Curtis, I will say thank you so much for being here with us tonight and giving us your time and all your wealth of information.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It was a pleasure being on your show. Thank you for having me. And now I have, I wasn't aware of your show and your book, so I'm going to be looking into your books, and I'll be visiting your radio show as well.
Wonderful. See, look at that. I bring you on as a guest, and now I've got you as a listener.
Yes, you do.
I love that. I have so many wonderful shows. I'm just blessed with so many wonderful guests here, and like yourself, and with all these different interesting backgrounds. So it's a real,
thank you so much.
Real pleasure. Next week, currently I don't have a show set, and I'm letting you know that because I'm not sure if I will have a show running next week. I will be at the Matriarch Gathering in Chimney Rock, Colorado, and I will be presenting there. There are still a couple of spots for that if somebody's interested in getting away to Colorado for the weekend. It's in southern Colorado region near Durango. And I will be back on the air, though, on October 11th, definitely. There's a slight possibility that I might throw a little show in of some sort, but there's no guarantee. So I just wanted to give you that heads up in case you came to tune in next week and I wasn't here for some reason. I will definitely be back on October 11th, and I will have Jim Sharon on the show. He's going to be talking about enlightened masculinity, as well as his work that was co-authored with his wife. It's called Secrets of a Soulful Marriage, and also his work with the upcoming Whole Man Expo, which is going on. So he's actually got a lot of very interesting information to share with that. And it's not just for men, it's also for women, because we know that when they are talking about, this enlightened masculinity, it's also a great way for women to learn how to work with the men in their life as well. Now, my books on relationships, as Curtis was bringing up, the latest ones have been released here, and you can find links to check those out and purchase them through my website at JessieAnnNicholsGeorge1.com. Just go right in there to products, and you'll find the books there. Those were released on the full moon, so Curtis will probably appreciate that, the full moon right before the autumn equinox. Incredibly wonderful energy to draw on there. And they're designed to help you activate the perfect relationship for you. You will learn how to find, develop, and maintain your perfect relationship by using those books. You'll learn how to understand what your partner is thinking, feeling, and needing, and how to communicate in ways to strengthen your relationship and avoid drama. So this is a really interesting thing. Guys, if you've ever wanted to know how to work with that woman in your life, and women, if you've ever wanted to know what he's thinking and what he's feeling and how to, be that partner there, you're going to find that out in those books. So definitely check those out. I'm working on putting together, like I said, the next Compassion Tour, and you can stay on top of the events for that at JessieAnnNicholsGeorge.eventbrite.com. And if you'd like to find out more about the work that I'm doing with Compassion, connect with me, check out my blog. I put up free videos every month with the little tips on them. I've got the books and the products there, services that I offer, ways to connect with me. You can listen to the archive shows or see upcoming shows. And that's all available on my website, Jessie Ann Nichols George 1. That's the number 1.com. Those links are also at the bottom of the show description, as are Curtis's website links there. And there's also a great section on my website for Main Street Universe. And you can follow all of our hosts and catch the upcoming shows as well as their archive shows, learn a little bit about the people that are a part of Main Street Universe. And the information, again, is all listed at the bottom of the show description. My books are available, by the way, on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Smashwords for ebook versions, and Smashwords has everything from Kindle and PDF and the whole gamut of readers and things like that, so that's a great option there. And the special that I have running for the month of September is where you can take advantage of getting familiar with the online courses that I'm doing these days. And I'm offering a free course when you pay for two, so you just sign up for 2 courses and then you'll get the third one absolutely free. And there's instructions on the home page of my website, so just going on the website, you'll find that information. And if you want to check out the courses that I have up right now, I'm in the middle of a 14-part chakra series for those courses. You can go to learnitlive.com/invite/Jessie Ann Nichols George. That'll get you right onto my page there. And even if it's a course that I've already done, you can still purchase the recording. So it's really useful, and I'm doing things with the moon cycles for full moon and new moon honoring and all of that great stuff, and autumn equinox and seasonal celebrations, and I've got a whole bunch of great things lined up to bring to the table too. So definitely you can follow up and watch for things there. And then I've also created Jessie's Quantum Club, and you can discover more about that through jessiesquantumclub.eventbrite.com, and there's a great video up there about it, learning the value of quantum energy work and how that can help you out, maybe give you a little boost in moving things along in your life or just getting some positive energy around you. Don't forget that we've got several shows here on Main Street Universe throughout the week. Sunday nights we have Darren Bouquet, who's a reader at Madame Laveau in New Orleans, doing spiritual insights. Monday nights is Kevin Baird walking on the sidewalk with his Horizon Oracle Journeys deck. This is a deck that he personally created, and you can learn more about that deck on his website at templeofgaia.com. Tuesdays we have Susan Weed, who's sharing her expertise in herbs and natural plants. Wednesday nights is our flagship show. That's got Daniel, Janice, and Brett on that show. It's called Main Street Universe. Thursdays, we have Queen Mother Amaku, who looks at Egyptian culture and her insights and storytelling aspects of working with energy and understanding of cultures. And then, of course, Friday nights is Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. This is Jessie Ann Nichols George. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I look forward to seeing you back here, probably 2 weeks from tonight, as we delve more into Activating Compassion. Don't forget that if you've enjoyed the show this evening, to share it with others. It will be available at the same link in our archives. And I'm going to leave you tonight with the song called Yearning For. It's also known as Over and Over by Shemshai, a great group that I met in the Arizona area when I was living there. And I thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks right here on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. May you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have an absolutely amazing week.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune, caught in a balance of sun and moon. the light within, shining to show you it's it to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity, and we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine, and we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, but that you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Yearning for. Within love to be for the divine, and we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man, and we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside, and we are in tune with the tune of life in the circle and love in bloom. Your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for.